Greetings, music lovers. Welcome to another episode of the Raaga Room with Deepa Joshi. Let's begin this episode by talking about the Benaras Tabla Gharana. The Benaras Tabla Gharana was developed a little over 200 years ago by Pandit Ram Sahai. Pandit Ram Sahai began studying the tabla from his father at the age of 5. At the age of 9, he moved to Lucknow to become the disciple of Modu Khan of the Lucknow Gharana. When Ram Sahai was 17 years old, Wazir Ali Khan, the new Nawab, asked Modu Khan if Ram Sahai could perform a recital for him. Modu Khan agreed on the condition that Ram Sahai would not be interrupted until he has finished playing. It is said that Ram Sahai played for 7 consecutive nights, and after this incredible performance, Ram Sahai was praised by all the members of the community. Shortly after this performance, Ram Sahai returned to Benaras. After some time performing in Benaras, Ram Sahai felt the need to make a significant change in his tabla playing. For 6 months, he withdrew into seclusion and worked to develop what is now known as the Benaras Baj or style of tabla playing. The philosophy behind this new style of tabla playing is that it would be versatile enough to perform solo and to accompany any form of music or dance. The tabla would be able to play delicately as required for khayal, or more aggressively like pakhavaj for the accompaniment of Drupad or Kathak dance. Today, the Benaras Tabla Gharana is well known for its powerful sound, though it is important to note that Benaras Tabla players are also very capable of playing delicately and sensitively. Benaras tabla players are successful in all forms of tabla playing, including tabla solo, instrumental, vocal, and dance accompaniment. The tabla solo is highly developed in Benaras Gharana, and artists such as Pandit Sanju Sahai ji, Pandit Kishan Maharaj ji, Pandit Samta Prasad ji have become famous as tabla soloists. Today, we are fortunate to have with us Sanju Sahai ji, a direct descendant of Pandit Ram Sahai ji. Sanju Sahai ji has accompanied some of India's legendary musicians. Apart from playing in classical tradition, he has also gone on to work with the genres as diverse as Egyptian, Spanish, African, jazz, and Irish music, as well as composing various pieces for several ensembles. Sanju Sahai, also known as Vishnu Sahai, is currently one of the finest and most sought-after tabla players of his generation. Belonging to the Benaras Gharana and being the 6th generation of tabla players in the lineage, he began playing at an early age. Being a child prodigy and the son of legendary Pandit Sanju Sahai ji, he gave his first tabla solo performance at a major festival in Benaras at a tender age of 9. He gained his Bachelor of Music at the age of 13 and Master of Music at 18 years of age. A phenomenal and outstanding tabla player, he is well known for mesmerizing and captivating his audience with his power, virtuosity, and complete spontaneity. His meteoric rise in popularity in the field of traditional Indian classical music has led Sanjuji to regularly collaborate with different genres such as jazz, Egyptian, Flamenco, opera, Western classical, hip-hop, folk, blues music, and the world of contemporary music and dance. Sanju Sahai is an international artist and performs all over the UK, India, Europe, Middle East, USA, Australasia, and the Far East. He has accompanied many of India's legendary musicians and dancers, such as Pandit Hariprasad Chaurasia, Pandit Shiv Kumar Sharma, Pandit Bhajan Sapuri, Ustad Vilayat Khan Sahab, Ustad Imrat Khan Sahab, Ustad Shahid Parvez, Pandit Kartik Kumar, Pandit Manilal Nag, Pandit Vishmohan Bhatt, Pandit Birju Maharaj, Natraj Gopi Krishna, Srimati Sitara Devi, Ustad Ashish Khan, Ustad Amjad Ali Khan, Pandit Jasraj, Srimati Girija Devi, Pandits Rajan and Sajan Mishra, Pandit Ajay Chakrabarti,
Srimati Veena Sahasrabuddhe, Ustad Sultan Khan, Pandit Ramesh Mishra, Kala Ramnath, and Maestro Umayalapuram Shivaraman. These are just a few to name. His performance concert venues include the Carnegie Hall, New York, Sydney Opera House, Shirova Theatre, the Stratford Novel Hall, Villa Adriana, the Royal Albert Hall, Royal Festival Hall, House of Commons, and Westminster Abbey, City Hall, London, Bridgewater Hall, Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City, Utah, and several other. Sanju Sahai's recent projects and collaborations include BBC Proms, Sangeet Yatra, Rhythm Exchange, The Raaga Tal, Back to Benaras, Ancient Future, Sangam, The Raga Jazz Encounter, Pan Jazz, Sacred Beats of Benaras, and several other. He has also been privileged to be invited to perform for Her Majesty the Queen of England on 4 separate occasions and has also performed at a private function held by His Royal Highness Prince Charles at Highgrove. Sanjuji has played for numerous live recordings including BBC TV, Channel East, Asian Network TV, Zee TV, Sony TV, Sky, BBC World Service, All India Radio, being an A grade artist, Doordarshan, and also on CDs with Arc Music, On Air, Sense World, NA Classical India, Warner Brothers, and Universal Records. In addition to his performance and touring work, he regularly conducts lecture demonstrations, workshops, and residencies in schools, colleges, and universities. He has been a tutor at SOAS, London University, leading a course in tabla for over 15 years. Sanjuji was also a percussion conductor of a unique South Asian music youth orchestra and regularly leads workshops with National Youth Orchestra involving some of the brightest young musicians based in the UK. What an absolute pleasure to welcome and talk to Sanjuji at the Raaga Room.
The speciality, every music is it's spiritual. But if you ever visit Benaras, you feel that. The Ghats, the Ganges, temples. So everything has this ritual and this spirituality which actually is brought in to our tabla.
Namaste, Sanjuji. So glad to have you here on the Raaga Room. I cannot tell you how lucky I feel that you're here with us today.
Namaste, Deepa ji. So nice to be chatting with you, and it's lovely to see you. And thank you very much for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure, Sanjuji.
Forward to talking with you.
Sanjuji, I don't know where to begin when I'm talking to a person like you because there is such a history behind your music. There's such a history behind your lineage. So I'd like to start with
You were born in a rich cultural capital city of Benares, and that automatically brings with it the aura, the atmosphere, the parampara. And to top it all, you come from the direct lineage of the Benaras Gharana. So please tell us about the lineage and the influence it's had on you.
Well, I consider myself very, very lucky, as you rightly put it, to be born in Benares. And further advantage of having been born in a musical family, that too of all tabla maestros, I consider myself exceptionally lucky. And not only at home, but if you ever visit Benares, you hear music, you can hear the sound of the gunguru, you can hear people practicing, making music throughout as you walk through those very narrow lanes of Varanasi. I was very young when I started, obviously, as it is in most musical families. But it was decided before I was born that I would be a tabla player. So I didn't have any say whether I wanted to be a tabla player or not. Before I knew it, I was already having lessons and attending concerts and pushed into sort of towards tabla.
It was preconditioned.
Precondition. Most of the time it is in Indian families, as you know, but not that I have any regrets. I think we are one of those very fortunate people who don't have to struggle to make career decisions, don't have to struggle to plan. We have to work extra hard. And when I say extra hard, it's a lifetime of practice, lifetime of learning, because you never ever reach the end. You could never say as a musician that you've completed your journey and I know you can wear the suit and tie and say, okay, that's it, I have become an expert, because you don't know what the next concert brings. You do not know who you're working with. And most of the time, I would say, if I am playing with legendary musicians, it's like having lesson one all over again. It's a scary situation. Benaras Gharana was formed by my great-great-grandfather, Pandit Ram Sahai ji. I won't go too much into details of how it was formed, but what became Benaras Gharana was actually formed by him. And there are 6 tabla schools altogether. And Benaras was formed by Pandit Ram Sahai ji and is the youngest of all. The influences, I guess, it's like growing up in the household of all tabla players. Even my dadiji, although I never heard her play tabla, but if I was practicing, she'd get up and say, "You're not playing that right. Your dad used to play like this, and your dad used to play like that." So it was learning from just about everybody. My Guruji, my Papaji was always traveling, so not always there, but again, in a musical household, in a musical gurukul, and in a gurukul of such kind, where there's always advanced students, senior students, other guru bhais who are always practicing, and they were able to kind of, guide you. coming from Benares, it's such a holy city. So our music has so much of that imbibed. You get up in the morning, we're told, have a shower, do the puja, and then you do music puja. It's not like anytime, anywhere. We had to plan it. We had to be respectful towards the instruments, music making, and as it is part of our culture, not to even wear shoes in places of worship, music rooms. So much so, also in the kitchen. I grew up in the household where my daddy would get extremely upset if she saw anybody coming close to the rasoi, to the kitchen with the chappals, with the slippers on. So as I was growing up, listening to my Guruji practice, other senior members, and also Benares used to hold almost a concert a week, if not sometimes even more, and of legendary musicians, growing up listening to Ali Akbar Khan Sahab, Amjad Ali Khan Sahab, Vilayat Khan Sahab, Hariprasad Chaurasia ji, Siddharth ji, Pandit Biju Maharaj ji, all these legends, and not to mention, a few yards away from my house was Pandit Keshwar Maharaj ji, Pandit Kanche Maharaj ji's house, Pandit Rajan Sajan ji's, my Nanaji Hanuman Prasad Mishra ji. Everybody, it's all like a musical quarter.
A musical paradise, if you were to call it.
Yes.
The best is right there, and there's so much reverence to it all. You're in the best of the atmosphere.
So it was not very difficult not to be influenced by the music itself or the tradition, and not only tabla, singing, Kathak dance, instrumental music, everything was just all around us all the time. So I had, would say, the best influence, the best teaching, the best learning I could have ever wished for.
Wow.
And that continues.
Absolutely. And I guess when you are growing up in an atmosphere like that, it's also the bar is set so high. So how can one do one's best, and how can one reach the potential, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's almost like your aims are set.
Yeah.
Your goals are set. When you look at all these legendary musicians, you hear them practice, you hear them perform. And as it is in at least in Benares tradition, where if my Guruji or any senior person was performing, we used to sit behind them on the stage, not sit in the audience, but to sit behind them. So we had best of both worlds, as it were. We were audience, but also almost, let's say, 10% taking part in what was going on. If my Guruji would just turn around like this, I knew that he wanted a pan. So we would have the pan ready to offer, and he'd just, while he's playing, eat the pan and continue with the concert. So all this timing had to be right. We had to be prepared.
It's like co-driving a car.
Yes. Yes. Yep. We had to play many roles. And this music is, I strongly believe that it's best learnt in the parampara, in the paramparic situation, where you do the seva for your Guruji, to your Guruji, and much more than your practice is the blessings.
Yeah.
Without that, it's not possible to even half achieve what you set out to.
Absolutely.
You know.
Right. Sanjuji, so it's there is a bond, it has been formed, and you have cultivated it so beautifully. It's been said that musicians connect with their instruments in a way that it becomes an extension of mind and body, and
Mhm.
the connect is inseparable. So, could you please talk to us a little bit about this celestial connection and how it's nurtured?
You see, it's like the tabla becomes part of you,
Yeah.
a part of me as I play it. Each set of tabla I have has a certain story, has a history. And if it is been in the family for several generations, there are sets of tabla I just worship, I don't play because it's played by my ancestors. Each set of tabla is like my babies, is close to my heart. I have accumulated, like most tabla players, hundreds,
Wow.
but still not enough. Every time you can entice me with a set of tabla. If it sounds good, I want it. I want it to be near me. I want it to be part of me and part of my journey, part of my life. You know, if my tablas are well, I'm happy.
Oh,
You know, so once you have made that connection, and what you do as you play onto these instruments, you connect. You connect your soul. You connect your learning. You connect your guru's blessings, and you speak through your instrument. So that's where your life's learning come into play. You're not just playing a kaida and palta and rela. You're playing everything which has been taught to you. Your character comes through the music. You cannot hide.
no.
You cannot pretend. Most people, if you, I mean, generally in life, you can pretend to be something else. You could be doing something very, very, I don't know, a low act. You could be a thief going around stealing people's cars, wear a suit and look very smart, but your actions straight away put you on the sort of pedestal.
Yes.
So through music, I'd say, or through your instrument, you are trying to convey what your teachings are. And this is why you would notice all of us ask for permission. We take the blessings, remember the gurus, and take the permission of the instrument
Wow.
itself. Because you could practice millions of hours, but if your instrument is not happy, you cannot make good sound.
Wow.
You have to connect. You have to make that connection and have the respect at all times. Only then your music becomes divine. Only then you can reach souls. Otherwise, you make music. You can technically be brilliant,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you cannot reach anyone's hearts.
So beautifully said.
So that connection is very, very important. That respect, exactly what you wouldn't treat another person. So that instrument is actually a person, and not just a person, it's a guru-like figure.
Wow.
So when you bow down, when you have so much respect and love, like mother and child, or you know, as close as mother and child, it's very difficult not to.
Absolutely. Completely agree with that. And I guess that is why Indian music is so mesmerizing, even after a concert is over. If it has been rendered soulfully, it penetrates into the minds of people, it stays forever.
Absolutely, absolutely. You don't need to understand. You don't need to understand music. Music is not about understanding only. As an audience member, if you haven't felt what I was trying to convey through my music, then it's just technically brilliant. If you're sitting in the audience and you're clapping when everybody else is, you need to attend many more concerts to understand exactly what is going on. And sadly, it has become a norm these days that a good concert must have a lot of people clapping and cheering up. I say, if you're not able to close your eyes listening to good music, then you haven't really traveled, you haven't joined this journey. Yeah. If it's all about show, that can be achieved anywhere. Yeah. In olden times, I must share with you that I grew up listening to these stories. Even if you were attending a concert, one would prepare what we call mood banane. Are unka sunna hai aaj. They're preparing, they're gearing up just to be in the audience. Wow. Bada aanand aayega. Are kya acha. So all that positive energy used to also reach out to the performer,
the artist.
If somebody is sitting really sadly in front of you and giving out all the negative vibes, it's very difficult to perform. So our music particularly is depending on the audience energy and interactions. I personally find it difficult to perform when I can't see anybody in the hall. The lights are like really completely out. I can't perform. I want to be able to see my audience.
Yes.
With the smiles or the blessings or maybe sometimes angry face, tell me I'm doing something right. Whatever it is, it needs to be connected. Yeah.
It's a very symbiotic relationship between the artist and the audience. One feeds off of the other.
Absolutely.
That brings up a good point, Sanjuji. So in our Indian music, it's a raga-based music. And like we were talking about, you even mentioned that if your audience were angry, you'd still like to see their faces. And that I would think is because of the ras that rag invoked is why that would have happened. So with a rag-based system, like how we have different rags bring about different temperaments, the pathos, jubilance, and karunaras. In terms of tabla, how does it evoke emotions of this kind?
Tabla, although belonging to a percussion family, it's a melodic, just as melodic. Because particularly the left-hand drum, I say left-hand drum because the majority of tabla players are right-handed, and you hear the baya, the bass drum, being played with the left hand. You can have several notes. You can play more than, say, a couple of notes. You can play the whole scale on the left hand. Once we tune the right hand to the tonic, so if I tune it to your sa, I can't change that.
Okay.
But when you think about tabla on the whole, you see, it's very interesting. So right-hand drum is called tabla, left-hand drum is called baya. Mm-hmm. But collectively called tabla. Mm. Because we can't separate the two. Yeah. Okay? So it's like a male and female. We have this, so tabla says lots more. We have many more strokes. And the baya has less, but it's necessary. Huh. So that combination makes it complete and makes it percussive and melodic. Mm. Now, when we talk about emotions are created by the artist. The instrument itself cannot create those emotions.
Right.
one need to be bringing those out in the playing and the way they're playing it. If I'm playing with, not even playing with some, I mean, in my solo tabla playing, depending on the type of composition. If the composition is based on, I don't know, thunderstorm, lightning, but I can't play it any different. It has to bring those moods, those emotions of it's about to pour, describing how the raindrops. How the badal garaj raha hai, kaise barish ho rahi hai. So you bring those out. If you're playing, we have a type of composition called rela. Rela is based on how the train moves.
Okay.
So if you do a good job, you will bring those emotions.
Wow.
If you play a rela or rela-like, the emotions will come out. If I had an instrument now, I will be able to demonstrate to you, I can make horse sound. But if I'm not able to get across this feel to you, you can sit there and say, sorry, it doesn't sound anything like a horse. But if I do a good job, if I have done my research, if I've done my practice, and what is more important is, again, connecting.
Yes.
I was playing, this is going back 20 odd years, probably more, in Estonia. I was playing in a very rural part of Estonia. I was invited to play in a very sort of old mansion, 16th century mansion. The gentleman who owned that was a big businessman. He heard me in Tallinn, and he said, would you do this concert for me? It would be only for my friends. And I said, sure, would love to. They hadn't seen Indians, let alone tabla, right? And I said, no, we just want to hear tabla. I said, are you sure? Because, we should call some sitar player. No, just want to hear tabla. And I'm playing, and I noticed this person sitting in the corner crying. It's emotions. Because I did not want to change the way I play, just because I'm playing in a place where nobody's seen tabla. You have to stay honest at all times.
Yes.
Just because you're playing somewhere, it's like cooking really bad food just because the person you invited knows nothing about your food.
That makes for a good analogy. Yes.
You have to do your best.
Yeah.
When I first came to UK, I was living in a place called Devon. Me and my sister were the only Indians in the school. Everything I did, they thought all Indians do. So even as teenagers, we had to set good examples.
Yeah.
Because they used to think anything we did is how it's done in India. So you can imagine if you belong to such a family of such great masters, you have a huge responsibility. Traditions are not made in minutes, in days and months. Making traditions easy, carrying it forward, preserving it is somewhat harder in the changing world we live in today. Here I am speaking to you in English. It's neither of us matribhasha. I didn't grow up speaking English, but this is a way to communicate.
Yeah.
So when I'm communicating with tabla, I don't differentiate who I'm teaching. I'm very lucky I'm teaching around the world. I have a student from probably every part of the world you can think of. I don't differentiate. I teach them exactly the same. I don't care where they come from. It's what I teach. It's what I share. Nobody knows me. But if I don't do that correctly, it would reflect on my family, on the tradition, on this nearly 300 years old tradition, which we're trying to preserve. So that way, sometimes people say, well, why don't you go and live in India? You need to be in India. I said, there's more work which needs to be done here. There's much more needs to be done here because we're still struggling to keep teaching the tradition, and it takes time. It takes time. If you're not born and brought up in that environment, it is difficult. It takes time.
Like you were just talking about, Sanjuji, when you had this concert in Estonia, that person did not know anything, did not even know an Indian. But if you had that kind of an effect on him, then just going by what you're saying, even being away, you're creating this kind of a cultural atmosphere wherever you are and creating new section of audiences with different kinds of experiences. That is amazing.
It's our duty. It's our duty to be honestly teaching. Again, if you learn well, I believe that you teach well. The problem happens when you have half-baked knowledge of things.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what subject it is.
Even the responsibility that you were talking about, when one is growing up in that environment, when one is grown up with that kind of a regimen, with that kind of a discipline, with that kind of respect, it comes to you very naturally, I guess. Even wherever you go, you do the same thing. You don't have to be mindful about, I have to do the right things, because you're going to do the right thing anyway. So, Sanjuji, you also had extensive experience playing tabla solo as an ensemble and collaborating with various genres of Indian classical and world music. And Indian music itself, we know, has several genres. While either playing solo or accompanying with another instrument or vocal or kathak, what is generally the thought process or what is the approach?
When Pandit Ram Sahai ji founded the Benaras style of tabla playing, we believe that he created this, what is known as Chaumukhabaj. So Benaras tabla players are able to play with Kathak dance with just as ease as they're able to accompany vocal music. They're able to play, we have a huge repertoire of tabla solo content, playing with instrumental music. So, but the thought process, it goes back to your training. You must. It's like you must learn to listen first. If you listen well, you answer well. You converse well. And as a tabla player, tabla is supposedly, accompaniment instrument. It's used widely more as an accompaniment instrument. Solo repertoire, when you play solo, you're the boss. You can do whatever you like. You can choose to play certain things. You can choose to play at certain tempos. Whichever way, you are the boss up to a certain extent. But when you're accompanying, it's almost like saying, don't speak until you're spoken to. As a tabla player, you sit back. You sit back. Every good tabla player would sit back and only say what is necessary, to the point, or right amount. Sitar player is playing, he's talking about certain subject, and you go off and say, no, this is what I've practiced. And you kill the concert completely. You destroy it. The mood, the setting, the whole conversation, and it cannot flow, it cannot carry forward in the same way. But if you keep listening, having a dialogue, and those are the concerts which become memorable.
Conversation.
And as we all know, we don't read music. We're not playing planned music. We haven't discussed music. We perform. We just sit together and have this musical dialogue. So as long as you have that with the right training, so growing up in Benaras, I would practice on my own, as well as practice with the Kathak dancers, practice with sitar players, practice with vocal music. And not only that, learn a little bit about all the other subjects. How can you sing through your tabla if you don't know nothing about songs? You must learn that. Then you accompany much better. You get one step closer to that art form. Just because you're born in a musical family you have certain advantages. Maybe it is in your blood. But if you don't practice it, it doesn't come out. So you must learn about it. So most important thing is to learn, only then you can do a good job. Now, what happens a lot of the times, sadly, certain tabla players, they've worked on some pieces. It's the same playing, whether it's with instrumental, whether it's with shehnai and sitar and vocal, everything is same. How can you think like that? The way I accompany Raga Marwa is totally different to the way I would play with Mia Malhar. If you don't understand that, then you're just doing a robotic job. Because this is how I play it. That's it. But you must be able to tell the difference. So you need to know about vocal. When you're playing with Kathak dance, your eyes should be glued onto the feet of the dancers for all the rhythmic work. As much as all the movements, we try to transcribe that into our playing. So if you don't have this understanding, you're playing tabla. You're playing for people who have no idea, and they would praise you for that. But where I grew up, it was very tough. It's difficult to convince grounds. A lot of musicians, they used to be scared to come to Benaras and get successful, concert and get the praises from all the learned people. And I'm not saying that learned people only lived in Benaras. There are learned people everywhere. When I'm playing in Kolkata, I'm just as scared. When I'm playing in Mumbai, I'm just as scared. If you have, out of the 200 audience or 5,000 audience, if you have one person who knows what you're doing,
yes,
it has an effect. you must do a good job.
Exactly. You were also talking about listening, to be mindful, to be present. To all the artists that we have spoken so far, listening is such an integral part of music because
Absolutely.
a lot actually gets into your mind without you even knowing about it. Just to tune yourself to your surroundings teaches you quite a lot, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, Sanjuji, you have made a home away from home. You live in the UK right now, and you've
Yes.
created a cultural atmosphere in the UK. So, please share with us the symbiosis of your music and the cultural influences. I know that you collaborate with a lot of world music and you have worked with different genres of music. So, some of your experiences.
Yeah, just 2 days ago, I was recording with opera. So anything goes. Played on a film a couple of weeks ago. Um, it's a very multicultural place. London has just about every kind of music uh, there is. It's a very multicultural place, which means that you have so many more opportunities to learn about each other. I don't need to go to Spain to learn about the Spanish lifestyle sometimes because I have friends here.
Yeah.
Of course, it will not be exactly the same, but we have accessibility here. Um, I personally, actually, I love exploring. I was touring with flamenco dancer for like 3, 4 years. Came to a point when I think we were playing in New York, series of concerts, and they didn't want cajon to be there. They just wanted tabla and flamenco because they loved the idea of tabla being so much more versatile.
Yeah.
I was able to like almost, and I was only thinking about Kathak dance. I don't know nothing about flamenco, but I was learning as I played more and more concerts with them. I have played music with just about every kind there is. From storytelling, poetry to hip hop to jazz to you name it, everything. Because it makes me grow as a musician. It makes me understand a little about other genres and broadens my horizon. I'll always be a traditional tabla player. I'm born into such a family. That's what I practice. I'm still playing the same kite as I used to do 45 years ago. I'm still working on the same thing. But, taking the ideas and influences from other great genres and legendary musicians, it doesn't harm you. It only enhances what you already do. So I'm all for it. And I never want to say I don't want to play with other genres. But of course, the majority of my playing is within the Indian classical music zone.
Great. Sanjuji, you have there are hundreds and thousands of concerts that you have been a part of, and I've also been told that you have played for as the Queen of England not once but several times. So, what was that experience like?
Oh, amazing. I would say each time it was different experience. In the beginning, you're somewhat a little scared too, because you don't know how it will be. Um, because of security reasons, if I was playing 3 p.m. in the afternoon, I don't know, 10 minutes or 15 minutes, whatever, we had to go to the venue from the early morning.
Okay.
And then you stay there for security reasons. But I'll share with you a very memorable uh, event, which I was lucky enough to accompany Ustad Amjad Ali Khan Sahab to His Royal Highness Prince Charles's house and to play in his living room for him and only probably about 20 of his very close friends. Um, that experience I never forget, because Prince Charles, every time he spoke to us, he was like this. And at one point, I saw his tears. He was so moved. I mean, he's an ardent fan of Amjad Ali Khan Sahab, and also, of Indian music. So it's I'm not surprised. But then again, people have very different ideas until you meet somebody. You don't really know, because you're used to seeing such royalties on TV, and you have your own ideas about.
Yeah.
And I remember I was trying to put the strap. My tabla had gone very low. It was a very hot day, and I wanted to make sure that it was tight. So I asked for a screwdriver so I could put the strap on. And I heard this voice behind me whilst I was putting this strap on. Do you need a hand with that? And I thought, my God, this is Prince Charles. He's asking me if I need help, doing this. And it was so nice to kind of dine there, and to 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 feel so welcomed. He showed us his garden. He showed us, his all his paintings and all kinds of things. Really, yeah, very nice experience. After that, I played for Her Majesty the Queen several times, actually, for the opening of the Nehru Gallery at the Victoria and Albert Museum here in 1990, and several more times for Commonwealth occasions, several times. And once or twice we got to meet them personally. They shake hands, they talk to you. And other times you just see them from far, you just literally just get to say hello. But at least on a couple of occasions, having a long chat about the talcum powder I use, and what is this on the tabla, and why do you use hammer, and that looked a bit dangerous, and all kinds of things.
It's a matter of such great pride, Sanjuji. You were just talking about the performance you had with Ustad Amjad Ali Khan Sahab, and how you have played with not just a few, but all the stalwarts in the Indian classical music industry, and across different generations as well. So this is just out of curiosity. When you play with the legendary musicians and their children, you're also playing with their sons of the current generation. So where do you put it all together?
When I say I have played with legendary musicians such as Pandit Biju Maharaj ji, Amjad Ali Khan Sahab, Sultan Khan Sahab, Shiv Kumar Sharma ji, Hariprasad Chaurasia ji, Vishnu Mohan Bhatt ji, Kartik Kumar ji, I'll tell you, Ajoy Chakravarti ji, Pandit Rajan Sajan Mishra ji, several more, Ibrat Khan Sahab, all. When I play the next generation, my generation, the younger maestros, they're maestros in their own right. They've been playing music for rather a long time. I suppose I'm more scared when I play with the legends, more nervous. And with the younger generation, of course, it's a different kind of challenge. It's a different kind of challenge. It's like with the young blood, they're more sort of on the fire, as it were, ready to go, playing with Ustad Shahid Parvezji and playing with Shakir Bhai, or Aman Ali and Ayan Ali Bhai. It's just scary because they're good, not just good, they're amazing. So you just feel a little bit at ease only because I grew up listening to all these great maestros. So I feel a little more connected to their music. I feel that, okay, maybe these young bhai log will look after me a little better. I won't be as nervous, but it's always a learning experience and challenge of different kinds.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sanjuji, something that's close to your heart, a performance that has touched your heart, and you've played all over the world. Your experiences in India versus overseas, some concerts that you feel have made a remarkable difference.
Several. I think when I have had the opportunity to accompany, legends, it's a very special experience anyway, because it's almost like having a lesson from them, a personal lesson. And you keep thinking, wow, I'm so blessed. I am so blessed that I am a tabla player, that this legendary figure thought that I could sit in the corner of the stage and share the stage with him. Playing with Pandit Biju Maharaji, and that too in my hometown, or our hometown, Benaras, was such experience playing with Rajan Sajanji in Benaras. It's difficult to put it in words. What goes through our heart? It's the experience you have when you land in India. Is that feeling you're home? You can't put it in words.
Yeah.
I'm in England. I've been here longer than I have spent in India. But landing in India, arriving in India, the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you eat, the way you greet, that's what I feel when I play with these legends. Yes.
It is difference. Wow. Sanjuji, you know what you were talking about just now, about how you felt when you were playing with the legends. You felt very fortunate. I have to share with you, that's exactly how I'm feeling right now. To be able to get your time and to be able to talk to you and learn about all these things from you, I feel really fortunate to be in this place here today with you.
You're very kind. I am not. I've got a long way to go. And in this lifetime, I want to remain a student. And that way I can keep learning, because everywhere I look, it's suddenly it feels like we don't have enough time.
Yeah.
For what I want to learn still, what I want to achieve. I don't want to become the world's greatest tabla player, but I want to become the best student. Keep learning, keep learning, keep learning. And even if 5 people thought I was a good tabla player after I was no more, would be a happy thing for me.
Um,
Working
you,
towards.
I mean, that's so gracious of you to speak like that, knowing who you are and what you do. This is phenomenal work that you're doing. Sanjuji, you're also, you teach several students across the world. You have many students from different parts of the world, and each a student learns differently. Now, when you have such a varied gamut of disciples, and keeping in sync with the current times, what would be your message to the students that are learning tabla, Indian classical music today?
My philosophy about teaching tabla or teaching music is that it should be accessible to everybody around the globe. We don't only teach music, we teach a bit about culture, humility, how you have to take your shoes off, how you have to do your pranams to your teachers, how be respectful towards your instruments, your elders, your colleagues. And when I'm teaching them, I'm also teaching them how to be a good student.
We've basically offered our respect and reverence to the images of the previous gurus and to the present guru, Sanjuji.
Honoring the guru by doing a puja ceremony.
Message to them.
To all of us, I can say, because we're all students and we're all learning. So maybe for all of us.
I always joke about this one, but there's some truth in this. I say it's difficult. It's somewhat easier to find life partner than to find the right guru. It's easier to find the life partner. But I keep coming across people who feel that they haven't really found the guru. Learning from somebody is one thing, but having that bond, having that, I don't know, it's like there are so many we come across who are learning for one reason or the other. Some probably want the big name to be attached. Some, I mean, those are the kind of people who want to sort of mention their Guruji's name before theirs. Now, there comes a time in life when you want people to stop saying who your dad is. And that you can only achieve if you work hard and you become good at what you do. I wouldn't use the word successful because that doesn't mean anything here. When somebody can say, oh, Sanju Sahai, so-and-so's disciple, so-and-so's son, then you feel that you have achieved something. If they have to keep on saying, oh, yeah, unki bete hain, then you have a long way to go still. So you must work to achieve, to make your grounds. Your teacher teaches you what he was taught from his teacher. Now it becomes your responsibility to move forward with the same teaching. And we have a saying, eat pe eat rakhna hai, to build. So a lot of the things I am going through now when I sit down to teach, I don't know who, somebody's teaching me. Because I'm teaching something I have never even learned. I don't know where it comes from. Then I strongly believe my Guruji is there. He's not just there in the photo here. He is constantly with me. So as long as you keep looking back to your traditions, to your learnings, it's like, a lot of things our parents say when we're young, it goes over the head, doesn't mean anything. But there comes a point you begin to relate to those things. That's what my mom said. That's what my Guruji was trying to teach me. That's what my dad was saying. And as long as you keep respecting and learning from all that, you have nothing to fear. You move forward. And that's the only way to move forward.
So
If you
true.
think, oh, I can play, I've been to Taiwan, my Guruji never went there, then your life is finito. Your tabla life, your music life, your life is finito,
Yes.
you know.
Yes,
So,
that does become a guiding principle. What we never paid attention to while growing up, at some point in time, you connect with it and it becomes something
yes,
that we follow.
yeah, I wasn't old enough to understand at the time. When you are old enough to understand, you must practice that. You must imbibe that. You must move forward with that,
How fortunate are the disciples who get to learn all of this from you, Sanjuji? Uh,
I'm only able to share the little I have been lucky enough to learn from very, very special souls. I cannot tell you how lucky I feel. To sit near Pandit Krishna Maharaj Ji, to sit near Pandit Sharda Sahai Ji, Bilad Khan Sahab, Amrit Ali Khan Sahab, telling me stories. My Nana Ji, my Mama Ji, Pandit Rajan Sajan Mishra Ji, sadly, Rajan Mishra Ji is no more with us. I feel very blessed. They've taught me non-stop. They're still teaching me.
wow.
I feel very, very, very lucky.
I feel just the same. And these are legends that we read about, we see the documentaries, but today I'm getting to hear from you, your experiences being with them. So it has been a phenomenal experience talking to you, Sanjuji. So nice of you to come to the Raaga Room and share your wonderful experiences with
Thank you
us.
so much.
More
Thank
power
you
to
so
you
much.
for continued success, and we look forward to watching more of your music. So thanks a lot for coming to the Raaga Room.
Thank you for having me. All the best.
Dear viewers, time after time, we are amazed as we delve into the richness of our history, culture, and heritage. I'd like to bid adieu to you all today by expressing my heartfelt gratitude to Sanju Sahai ji for spending his valuable time and sharing such insightful knowledge, and to you all, my dear viewers, for your continued support and patronage. All we need is experiences like such for music to flow and create a harmonic space in our minds. Thank you all, and we will see you soon.